Hello all, it's James Johnson, aka Sulphur Blade, and I'm actually going to attempt to do another Let's Play of the political process. One could say it's back by popular demand. For those of you who have been watching me for more political coverage, it may interest you to know that my channel actually started off as a game channel, where I actually record video games, talk about video games, review video games, etc. And here lately, with everything that's been going on, my channel has kind of divulged a bit into more politics than anything. Funny enough, this game is a game about politics, and so with that being said, let's go through the policies that my character in the game is going to believe, which is actually policies that I believe. So I'm going to base them off of what I think my policies should be if I was to actually run for office. Do you support raising the minimum wage? So, yes and no. It would depend on really the constituency that I'm supporting and whether or not I believe that that constituency really is that the minimum wage in that constituency is grossly negligent, and that government would be required to interfere in the actual process of capitalism, which capitalism should be able to set a wage that is realistic based off of competition and demand for employees and the services that they would then provide to their employer. With that being said, minimum wage is something that should be able to take care of itself. So there is no maybe selection here. And I think, by and large, if I was to look at this from which of these am I more seriously aligned with, it's probably no. Because I believe that minimum wage is something that in a capitalist system will work itself out in the long run. But I'm not completely against adjusting minimum wage if it seems that there is a need for government to interfere. Just know that anytime you do adjust minimum wage, it's going to affect the employers themselves. Alright, so do you believe that government aid to the poor does more good or more harm in terms of helping the poor raise themselves out of poverty? Again, there's no middle ground here. Selection, it's either one extreme or the other. And if I have to go with one extreme or the other, I guess I'm going to have to go with more harm. I don't believe people should use welfare and other government aid systems as a form of permanent support. It's like their personal piggy bank, their go-to way of surviving. They should always be looking to raise themselves out of poverty, not looking to utilize the government aid as their contingency plan that they can always fall back on. So I'm fine with unemployment insurance when it's used for what it's used for. Temporary unemployment in between jobs. And there you have it. Okay, so do you support or oppose universal basic income, a program that provides a fixed amount of income to every citizen every month? Do you support or oppose universal basic income, a program that provides a fixed amount of income to every citizen? Sounds very much like communism to me. No, I oppose it. Alright, tax policy. Do you want to increase, decrease, or maintain current tax rates for low-income individuals? Well, what are the tax rates currently for low-income individuals? How am I supposed to set a tax policy without knowing what the tax policy is currently at the state of the beginning of the game? I think I said this the last time I started playing this. So until I know if it needs to be increased or decreased, I guess I'm just going to maintain. Do you want to increase, decrease, or maintain current tax rates? We'll just maintain. Do you want to increase, decrease, or maintain current tax rates for upper income? We'll just go with maintain. In order to improve the economy, do you think it is better to raise taxes? Ah, yes, the infamous, we don't have enough options here. So you have the either raise taxes and increase spending, or lower taxes and decrease spending. You don't have the raise taxes and decrease spending option, which, if I was to choose, it would be to raise taxes and decrease spending in conjunction with each other. And that is because I am concerned with the federal deficit, with our debt as a whole in the United States, and getting that paid down. Though, I guess if I have to applied by one of these two, it would be to lower taxes and decrease spending, because I think the decreased spending portion of this is the most important. Do you support or oppose a flat rate on income so that all income levels pay the same percentage of their income in taxes? I would support that, though if we were to put such a system in place, the federal government would quickly become broke, because right now we get so much money from the upper income tiers that it couldn't work itself out. If we tax the poor at what we tax the rich, the poor would not be able to survive. So we would have to bring down how much we tax the rich so that the poor could survive, in which case the federal coffers would go bare quickly. But I do support this. Yes, I do. Do you support or oppose a carbon tax, a tax on carbon emissions produced by companies? I think that it's fine to make sure our industries are not polluting. But a carbon tax would be kind of like paying to pollute, wouldn't it? How about just no pollution, no tax, just verify industry is not polluting. That's what I support. So I'm going to put oppose here. Do you support or oppose a wealth tax, an increased tax rates for the wealthiest? I oppose that. Gun policy. Do you support or oppose background checks when purchasing guns? I guess I do support that, yes. Do you support or oppose stricter gun control laws? I oppose. Do you support or oppose banning high-capacity magazine clips for guns? Well, there was a time where I might have supported that, but no longer. Do you support or oppose banning the sales of assault weapons? There was a time when I might have supported that, but no longer. Do you support or oppose deadly force stand your ground laws? I absolutely support that. Do you support or oppose a ban on the sale of handguns? Do you support or oppose a ban on the sale of handguns? I oppose a ban on the sale of handguns. Wait. Do you support or oppose a ban? Okay, I don't want handguns to be banned, so I do not support a ban, so I oppose. Sorry, this was more wordy than it needed to be. Do you support or oppose banning the sale of guns to individuals with mental illness. You know what? Mental illness is a very broad brush. In fact, over 75% of the country suffers from some form of mental illness. Simple depression is mental illness. There's such a broad list of mental illness that this isn't like specifying schizophrenia or whatnot. It's the whole book, which, if it's the whole book, no, I can't. Do you support or oppose? I oppose until that brush is more narrowed down to a targeted subset of mental illness. Do you support or oppose creating a federal database to track gun sales? Well, if you're gonna do the initial background check, then I don't think there's a reason to track gun sales. So I oppose. Why are there so many questions on the Second Amendment? But we'll continue on. Do you support or oppose allowing individuals with concealed carry permits to carry concealed guns in more places? In more places compared to what? Sure, I support it. They have the permit after all. As far as I'm concerned, they should be able to carry wherever they want to if they have a proper permit. Do you support or oppose allowing teachers and staff to carry guns inside of school? I'm not so sure about what I think about teachers having guns on them. No, I don't. I don't support teachers carrying guns. I'm not quite that liberal there. I'm not quite that easygoing on the Second Amendment. Do you support or oppose decreasing the waiting period to buy a gun? Do you support or oppose decreasing the waiting period to buy a gun? I don't think there should be a waiting period. Do you support or oppose decreasing? I support decreasing the waiting period. Yes. Do you support or oppose allowing concealed carry without a permit? Anyone would be allowed to conceal a firearm on themselves without a permit. No, I oppose that. If you're going to be carrying in public, it should not be concealed unless you have the proper permits, in which case it's fine. So I oppose. It should be in public. They should know you're carrying. Education policy. Do you support or oppose free community college? I oppose free community college. Do you support or oppose free preschool for all eligible children? I support preschool, yeah. Do you support or oppose increasing the salary of public school teachers? I oppose increasing teachers' salaries. They make plenty of money as is. Do you support or oppose school choice, a policy where parents are allowed to use tax funds designated for their child to select which public or private school their child will attend? I support more choice the better. Do you support or oppose free tuition for public colleges and universities? I oppose. Immigration policy. Do you support or oppose a path to citizenship for illegal immigrants who meet certain requirements such as no criminal record? They're illegal immigrants. No. Do you support or oppose tightening security at the U.S. I support. Yes. Do you support or oppose expanding the number of short-term visas for immigrants whose job skills are needed in the U.S.? If we need the jobs, I'll support it. Yes. Do you support or oppose legislation that would deny U.S. citizenship to children born in the U.S. if their parents are not U.S. citizens? No, I oppose that. They're born in the U.S., they're a U.S. citizen, regardless of how they got here. Do you support or oppose legislation that would give legal resident status to immigrants brought to the country illegally as children? Do you support or oppose legislation that would give legal resident status to immigrants brought to the country illegally as children? So I will support the legislation. No, I won't support they were brought here illegally. If we support that, then that only promotes more people bringing their kids here illegally. I oppose that legislation. Miscellaneous policy. Do you support or oppose requiring food companies to label genetically modified crops? I support. You should know what we're eating. Do you support or oppose increasing funding for science? That's a very broad statement. Sure, we can increase funding for science. Do you support or oppose abolishing the death penalty? I oppose abolishing the death penalty. Do you support or oppose abolishing the Electoral College so that President... I oppose abolishing the Electoral College. That would be insanity. Do you support or oppose labor unions? I strongly oppose labor unions. I despise labor unions. They were a good idea, but they're not labor unions anymore. Labor unions don't support the frickin' workers. Labor unions are used against the workers. Social policy. Do you support or oppose reducing the income gap between the rich and the poor? No. I don't. I support anyone's right to work their ass off to reduce the income gap between the rich and the poor. I don't believe that me as a politician has any business trying to alter that in any way that's not because that guy worked his ass off to change the income gap between the rich and the poor. So I'm going to say I oppose. Do you support or oppose the legalization of same-sex marriage? I support same-sex unions. Same-sex marriage is something... marriage is a technical term for churches. Government has no business telling a religion what it should do. I am all for same-sex unions from the eyes of government, saying that they're legally bound. I'm fine with union, but because the word says marriage, that's a religious term, so I guess I oppose because it says marriage. Do you support or oppose providing the same government benefits to some same-sex married couples as are provided to heteros? I would support that, again, if it's unions. All right, I'm going to go support on this with a caveat that the same sex is a union, not a marriage. And the same thing with this next one. The caveat is it's a same-sex union, not a marriage. Okay, do you support or oppose making the recreational use of cannabis, marijuana legal? Yes, I support legalized marijuana. Do you support or oppose making all abortions illegal? All abortions? I oppose making all abortions illegal. I think that in the case where it's the mother's life or the kids, then it's fine for an abortion. And that's pretty much the only time I'm for abortion, is to save the mother's life. Regarding abortion, are you pro-choice or pro-life? I am pro-life. But yet I'm going to put I oppose making all abortions illegal. Okay. Do you support or oppose defunding reproductive health programs that perform abortions, even if the funding provided is not used towards abortions? I support defunding health programs, yes. Do you support or oppose cutting food stamps to reduce the federal... I oppose cutting food stamps to reduce the deficit. Do you support or oppose the Social Security program, which provides monthly payment to retirees? I support Social Security. Do you support or oppose allowing transgender individuals to serve in the military? Sorry, I oppose that. 100%. Energy policy. Do you think there should be more, less, or equal emphasis on producing solar energy? Equal. Do you think there should be more or less? Equal. Neither of these energy types, solar or wind, actually really works right now. They're not the answer to fix our energy issue. Maybe with further research they could be, but at the current tech level that we have, solar and wind just doesn't cut it. Do you think there should be more, less, or equal emphasis on producing natural gas? More. Natural gas is probably the cleanest form of fossil fuel we could use at this point in time. Do you think there should be more, less, or equal emphasis on producing oil energy? Equal. Do you think there should be more, less, or equal emphasis on producing, honestly, more on nuclear? Do you think there should be more, less, or equal emphasis on producing coal energy? Less. I think coal is the main. Yes, coal plants can be very, very clean these days, but I'm fine with going away from coal energy if we're replacing it with natural gas, that is. Otherwise, maybe I should just go equal. Because honestly, I think nuclear is really the way forward. Though I do think that natural gas is really... I'm going to go equal on coal. Environmental policy. When it comes to environmental policy, which should take priority? Preservation of the environment or growth of the economy. I think it should be somewhat balanced between the two, not one over the other. But if I have to choose one, it's economy. Which option best describes the cause of global warming? Humans are the cause, nature is the case, global warming does not exist. Nature, by and large, has a larger impact on global warming than humans do. That's just scientifically a fact. Humans certainly do have a impact, but nothing near the impact that nature has. So there you have it. Do you support or oppose limiting the amount of greenhouse gases emitted by power plants? Yeah, I support it. Do you support or oppose implementing policies to combat global climate change? If you could show me that the policy will work in writing, if you could show me a logical proposal that is doable, that makes sense. We can't just stop driving all cars tomorrow. Yeah, I would probably support that. I don't see a reason why we shouldn't attempt to fight climate change. However, you're gonna have to make a real case to me here that it's gonna work. Do you support or oppose mandatory controls on carbon dioxide emissions and other greenhouse gases? Do you support or oppose mandatory controls? Yeah, it's something we do. I suppose I support it. I support maintaining where we are now. Do you support or oppose spending more money on the development of solar and wind technology? I can support spending more money for the R&D of making solar and wind technologies more viable than they currently are, but I do not support spending more money to implement solar and wind at the lackluster capacity that they are right now. So is this implementation or is this research and development? Do you support or oppose spending more money on the development of solar and wind technologies? That sounds like implementation to me, so I'm going to have to oppose it. Do you support or oppose spending federal money to develop alternate sources of fuel for automobiles? I am fine with alternate sources of fuel for automobiles. Yeah, I support that. Do you support or oppose permitting federal government land to be used for oil exploration? Absolutely, I support that. That's fine. Do you support or oppose increasing auto emission standards for automobiles? Increasing, I oppose. Do you support or oppose policies to reduce U.S. carbon emissions? I support policies as long as they're realistic and they're not going to have a dramatic effect on the economy. Do you support or oppose a Green New Deal, a plan to address climate change by investing in renewable? I oppose the Green New Deal. It's bunk. It's a bunch of bullshit. Do you support or oppose reducing the use of fossil fuels? Do you support or oppose reducing the use of fossil fuels? I'm going to oppose it. We can reduce it when we have a viable alternative. Not until then. Military policy. Do you want to increase, decrease, or maintain current military spending levels? While I am former military, and I'm all for our military, I'm going to do the un-Republican thing here and say we need to start cutting back on how much we're spending on our military. However, China's a problem right now. No, we're going to maintain because China's a problem right now. But at some point it's fine to start drawing back a bit, but China's a problem right now. We'll maintain. All right, health policy. Do you support or oppose universal health care? I oppose universal health care. Do you support or oppose an expanded Medicaid program providing more low-wage workers with access to Medicaid? I oppose. Do you support or oppose single-payer healthcare systems, sometimes referred to as Medicare for all? Oppose. Do you support or oppose a public healthcare option? This would allow individuals to opt into a public health care program such as Medicare, or continue using private health care insurance. I kind of like that idea. An opt-in system could work. However, that would be taxpayers' money spent to make this program a reality. Right. I'm going to support it, yeah. Do you support or oppose regulating prescription drug prices? Well, what do we mean by regulating? By demanding that we give access to drug prices at the same cost as other countries? Or I do support this, even though it's not a very Republican thing to do. Trump's actually has this going into effect in January, where he has executive order basically saying that if drugs are available outside the United States at this cost, then they should be available inside of the United States at this cost, which is supposed to bring down the cost of medication dramatically. Of course, I'm sure Biden will try to take credit for that. All right, so where was I here? Do you support or oppose? I'm going to support it because that's basically what Trump has done. Do you support or oppose allowing people between the ages of 50 to 64 to purchase Medicare coverage? Do you support or oppose allowing people between the ages of 50 to 64 to purchase Medicare coverage? I think that's added Medicare, isn't it? I guess I support it. Do you support or oppose prohibiting insurance companies? Do you support or oppose prohibiting insurance companies from denying coverage to individuals with pre-existing medical conditions? Well, if an insurance company denies coverage because of a pre-existing medical condition, then the group that they're giving that insurance to will have lower premium costs. However, if the insurance company has to allow these people, the translation of the added costs is going to be shared among the entire group. I oppose. I think it's up to the insurance company whether or not they want to they want to allow that pre-existing. This is a catch-22. Well, I think capitalism works out because I think that there will be. You'll have medical coverage that's cheap, that won't support it, but you'll have medical insurance that's more expensive that will support it because there's a market for it. So yeah, I'm going to oppose. Do you support or oppose prohibiting insurance companies from denying coverage to pregnant women? Why? I oppose prohibiting insurance companies from denying coverage to pregnant women. That seems unrealistic. That's a normal part of life. All right. Do you support or oppose prohibiting insurance companies from charging sick individuals higher premiums than healthy individuals? Sort of. I suppose it depends on how it's implemented. So, if you're a poor driver, you have lots of tickets, you spend more on your insurance, on your car insurance, and that makes sense. If you're an unhealthy individual, I oppose. Do you support or oppose requiring insurance companies to cover the cost of most preventative services? I oppose. That should be up to the insurance company whether or not they want to cover preventative services. And do you support or oppose prohibiting insurance companies from setting a limit on how much healthcare coverage they will provide over a person's lifetime? Over a lifetime. I oppose that. All right, here goes. Calculate ideology. Fiscal ideology moderate. Social ideology conservative. Suggested party Republican. Sounds about right. All right, so this is probably where I'm going to wrap up episode 1. That was going through and creating Jaames Johnson here. And in the next episode, we will actually jump in and start the game now that we have the policies in order. Anyway, thanks for watching.